We had a question about your NXT UK run that came through before you went live. Alex Perez, two questions for Eddie. Who pitched or came up with the idea of symbiosis in NXT UK with you, Primate, Wild Boar in 2020, and Tyson T-Bone? And who came up with the idea of the dog collar match at NXT UK in May of 2022 with yourself and Wild Boar? So tell us a bit about symbiosis, because initially, I thought it was a really, really cool group, to be honest with you. But I know that they started running promos just with you. And like I say, promos, I think they did it over a number of weeks. And they always kind of portrayed you as this kind of maniacal, evil headmaster type character. We thought, oh, what's this? This is very intriguing. And then the next thing we knew, you were kind of coming out as a manager to a Primate and a Wild Boar Symbiosis. Tell us a bit about that and being a manager for a change, Eddie.
Yeah. So originally, I think I was always cleared. So I think what happened was when they were looking to relaunch the brand in after, sort of like mid-pandemic, when they were looking to restart it in the empty arena, I separated my shoulder against Trent in the Steel Corner street fight in Hull, which was one of the last TV tapings that we did with a crowd. So I certainly wasn't cleared going into the pandemic. I had a separated shoulder going into the pandemic. So our first TV tapings back with no crowd, I wasn't cleared arriving at the tapings. So I actually got cleared at the tapings and ended up wrestling Oliver Carter during those tapings. But I think because I was injured and because I'd picked up injuries 3 years in a row, really, I think that either one of the writers or maybe Shawn Michaels as like a lead on NXT thought that it might be a good idea to transition me into a less in-ring role and more of a managerial capacity, um, which I was fine with working as a manager. I enjoy doing promos, I enjoy telling stories, so you still get to do both of those things as a manager. And I saw myself still as an in-ring performer in a sense of like, I'm just going to get more TV time this way. I was like, if these guys are having a tag match, I'll be on TV. If these guys have a promo, I'll be on TV. If I have a singles match, I'll be on TV. If we have a six-man match, I'll be on TV. There's just way more opportunities to be on TV. So I was kind of all for it. I'm not sure who came up with it, but then the Wild Boar hurt his knee. So we sort of decided to switch Boar out with T-Bone. And I do think that I was the person who threw for the name Symbiosis because I'd said it in a promo when I said there was a symbiotic relationship between man and beast. And I wrote that promo. So that was definitely.
I think those words would only ever leave your mouth, to be honest. So I can't imagine anybody else coming up with that.
Yeah, and I do think that it was probably Shawn Michaels enjoyed the Welsh dulcet tone saying symbiosis. I thought it was cool. And then the dog collar match was something that myself and Bo both sort of thought would be that hurts so bad. That hurts so bad. Yeah, it was absolutely brutal. The finish in that crossface, I cannot express how much that hurt. The chains in my eyes, like the one in my mouth wasn't too bad, but the ones going across my eyes, like I thought my eyeballs were like pushing into my skull.
Wow.
Like it was awful. That tapping out is 100% legitimate. I just want him to let go at that point. Yeah, I think that it was something that we both thought would be a cool idea. Especially, with him being considered sort of like a wild animal and me being like this master manipulator, like a puppeteer. What a great thing for like the animal that had been sort of like controlled by a master, like the shoes on the other foot. You're gonna stick a collar on the master so he can't run away from you. So it, for me at least, when you're gonna do a quote unquote gimmick match or a stipulation match, I love it when it's the gimmick is related to the story that's been told. So I was never really a big fan when the WWE started doing the branded pay-per-views because then it meant that you could only do a Hell in a Cell on the month of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. And I feel like sometimes the stories aren't there yet, and sometimes the stories are there a month later or a month before or whatever the case may be. And I always think that like when a when a gimmick match, the reason for the chosen stipulation is because that's where the story is. So like something as simple as people keep getting involved, so let's drop a cage around so no one can get involved anymore. You go to
Mm.
two time limit draws, so let's have a no time limit. You know what I mean? Like a match, you try and have a bunch of matches, but they end in DQ, so let's have no DQ. And I think in that sense, the Wild Boar, this animalistic character coming back to seek revenge on this guy who was kind of like his master sort of thing. I think a dog collar match fit perfectly. Um, and pretty exciting that there's only been like a handful of them ever on WWE television. So for us to be one of them is a cool little thing to, again, sort of like memory to tick. And it's always like special when it's one of the guys from Wales that we do it with. So like some of my favorite matches and memories in wrestling, obviously, uh, the TLC match with Mandrews in Wembley, and then the dog collar match with Boar in NXT UK. Like
Yeah.
they couldn't be closer friends of mine, really.
Absolutely. And I neglected to bring up a few pictures earlier. There you are from the promos that I described earlier on. Of course, Wild Boar there. Then, of course, T-Bone stepped in when symbiosis became a thing. And so I loved Primate's mask. And, of course, those pictures from the dog collar match, of course. And